For over 300 days, you have prepared for this moment. It was so awesome. The call in, the setup, the shot, the thrill of a lifetime. After waiting almost an hour, you anxiously start your tracking job, totally expecting to find your animal piled up only yards away. Then the unthinkable happens, y'all. The blood trail ends. Look, y'all, no one wants to be in this situation, and it can be a hard subject. But when you hunt such a strong and powerful animal such as an elk, we need to talk about this, and we need to be prepared for it. Because if you do, it just might mean the difference between an incredible find or some tough days ahead. On today's show, when the blood trail ends, causes, strategies, and dealing with it all. Those topics along with our ElkBros shout-outs and questions from our ElkBros bell box. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host and elk hunting coach, Joe Gillett. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoyed our show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, your host for your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and one of the Venezuelan Mafia himself from Katy, Texas, Luis Gonzalez. And from Cimarron, New Mexico, the one, the only, our inspiration and yours, Leroy Chav Chavez. And our elk hunting coach himself playing grandpa in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the one, the only, WWJGD.
Oh.
What would Joe Gillia do?
Son of a buck, Gilbert, man. I'm already getting emails, bro.
I told you, gonna make a shirt, baby.
Oh, my
Gonna
God.
make us famous, babe.
Oh, my God. No, man. I was like, I'll never kill another elk ever. Lord will be like, I'm looking to show you about WW, man. And
Don't put that on me, Ricky.
man, I tell you what, we're getting all kinds of emails, man. People sending stuff in about our 100th, and people
awesome.
that were sending in, people that were like, man, your brother Luis was quick to throw you under the bus with that rash, man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
There's no doubt.
I got
about
some of that too. I got some of that too.
They were like, dude, man, you ought to find a way to get even with him, man. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's
they
not
only
hard.
knew.
I'm like,
That's not
I'm
hard
not
to
like
do.
that, man.
Oh what?
I'm
You
like-
what?
I'm not like
yeah,
that.
you were
man.
like that, man.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. Oh, look down at me. I'm gonna warm my legs up. I'll be right back.
Yeah, he's just saving it up, man. Wait till next
Right.
year, for day one, and see if Joe's gonna put down a show that's gonna
No,
leave
I
me
got
behind.
people going. They were like, because we couldn't get. I had trouble getting our YouTube uploaded because the internet was just so slow where I was at, and I didn't even get up to today. I'm getting emails from guys who are like, how come it ain't on YouTube? We want to see the rash. I'm like, I said, spoiler alert, man. You ain't gonna see no rash, man. So
Yeah, I had people ask me what I was drinking last episode.
Yeah.
My mood was excellent. I was like, yeah.
I told him,
him,
man, I was like, that dude's on 3-2. It don't matter. 3-2 will kill him. He's so young, he low tolerance, man.
No doubt. Jam, how we feeling, brother?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Good, buddy.
And
Feeling
this
pretty
weekend, yep, huh?
Yeah, I had a great
Unbelievable weekend, huh?
Yes.
Yep, sure was.
That's fantastic. Y'all looked sharp, Dapper Dan for sure, and your daughter looked beautiful for sure. Man, I'm glad it was
thank you.
a big time for everybody,
sir.
It was a special weekend.
Yeah, it
Definitely
was.
got to walk her down the aisle. Joe and them did their thing, even with the good bouquets of flowers that he picked for everybody. I know that went over
Uh,
well.
it
No,
was.
Chav,
Hey, look,
honestly,
I got it coming. I know, so it'll be
honestly,
okay.
Chav, it was super great to watch you on
Definitely.
those pictures walking your daughter down the aisle, man. It's an incredible accomplishment, not only for you but your entire family.
Heck yeah.
Joe, it just shows the support system that you all have as a
Right.
family and what you
I'm
were
very,
able
very
to
blessed.
accomplish.
Very blessed.
That and just the extreme power of prayer, and there is no doubt there is a superior being in whatever you may think or say. We know it to be true. There's
Absolutely.
power in
Right.
prayer, and there's
and
power in the
and all the
healing
and
part of
you
prayer.
know we've done it. I hope a lot of people realize, a lot of people out there that we're doing a lot of prayers and keeping us all in their thoughts,
Absolutely.
and you guys, and it's amazing. It's amazing how far everything has come, and to see that this Saturday,
Full
and to see Chav, and
circle.
to see Lynn,
Yeah.
and God, it just, there was a lot of emotion, a lot of cool things, and our family grew bigger, which was way cool, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Well, we wish we could have been there, but I promise you, all of us were there in prayer and in
Absolutely.
spirit. I guarantee you, ElkBros showed out, and it was a good deal and a good time had by all.
Yeah.
Joe, this is our 91st episode.
Oh yeah.
We are only 9 away from our 100th show.
9.
Isn't there something special
Wow.
coming up for that?
Oh, yeah.
Our listeners might want to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Our 100th show coming up is going to be a huge milestone for us. And guys, we want to thank you, all the grinders. So remember, we said it on the last show. We're going to announce it until it happens there, until we make our selections. But we are looking for 2 listeners that want to join us, the Elk Bros, right here on our 100th episode of Blue Collar Elk Hunting. And remember, all you have to do is you have to write into us at info@elkbros.com, INFO, you hear it every time in every podcast, at elkbros.com, and tell us 2 things, y'all. We want you to tell us about your journey this year as an elk hunter, and secondly, why you would want to join us on our 100th episode. Now, listen, it doesn't matter if you did or didn't punch your tag this year, or if your hunt is still coming up. We'll be selecting 2 grinders, and out of you guys out there, and it's about your journey, whatever that journey has encompassed. I mean, if that journey just was this year, or if it's been a doggone 30-year journey for you, 2020 was a part of that. That was a culmination. So tell us about it, and we will be selecting 2 of you and giving gear to other people as well that write in. We're going to select some of those, and we're going to have some special prizes. We got some things coming from some people, so I think that's going to be way cool, man. Also,
Hey, I was gonna say, Joe, super cool. Emails already
yeah,
coming through, and super cool to reading the stories and reading
Yeah.
people's journeys, and just kind of the path that everybody has taken, and it's just neat to see as people start writing in their stories. So thank you for those of you who've already submitted their stories.
and there's so many stories out there. And listen, don't think that you're not a story, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
uh, there's so many cool things, and I got even letters this week. I'm getting all kinds of letters from people that it's not even about the 100th episode. I mean, I just got one from a gentleman out of Las Vegas, and I'm going to share that at some point in time. But man, he just talks about an experience with his son and what that meant to him, and we're going to share that at another point in time when it's appropriate, maybe on that 100th show, because it's stuff like that, y'all. It's stuff like that that makes all of this,
Yeah.
just fill you up in here, man. And you know, I hear from people that when they listen to us, and I want to thank you guys for some of the cool, kind things y'all say. But one of the main things I hear people say, guys, is that, we are who we are, and not to lose that. And I'm like, you know, There's a reason.
No idea.
Any idea, man. we, you know, we actually keep ourselves a little on a leash as well, you know, but we are who we are. I mean, each one of these personalities, and all these guys are personalities, all of them are themselves, and I love them for it. And I think that's what makes our group so unique. We got a lot that comes to the table, and you know, a lot of times we forget all the things that brought us so tight together, and some of those get revisited at times. And you know, I
It's the
tell you,
diversity that's beautiful.
oh yeah, man, and
It's
the things that
it's
we've
the
done,
diversity.
and we still,
Yeah, we got Venezuelan leaders and members, and so I mean it's just all all the spectrums of the
Venezuelan,
society leadership.
Yeah,
yeah,
Latin rednecks. I mean,
That's right.
North Carolina boys. I mean, hey, we're gonna cover the broad spectrum. There ain't no racist around here. I can tell you.
That's right.
We love everybody equally, and we don't like people equally.
Yeah. Except for Manano, but everything else is just, it's just,
Hey, and shout out to Manano, man. The homeboy caught the COVID, and at the end of the day, he's healing up. He's got some good medicine and stuff like that.
we're gonna try to get him back on here real soon. I think that'd be some of his best medicine, man, right there. So,
For all our listeners,
We would love to.
your prayers.
Yeah.
We've been praying for him. I know he's going to be just fine. He's tough.
yes.
one thing too, I got to finish up what we had before there, guys.
Yeah.
Also, you guys that are listening, included in those write-ins, if you're interested in hearing a special topic that you'd like us to talk about on our 100th episode, we'd love to hear it from you. So just send all those letters and send those topic suggestions again to info@elkbros.com. So I'm done with that section right there, man.
No, all good. And look, guys, we love that you love our podcast and stuff. But again, if you want to check us out, really see us in action, the facial expressions, everything that we're doing, it's really cool. Check out our YouTube channel. You'll see it on there as well. Yeah, and I guarantee you, Luis laid some footage down this weekend. I hope he gets it loaded up here pretty quick of him and his daughter doing a do-it-yourself hunt up in the wilds of North Texas, man, around the Red River area. That was, I mean, epic. I can't. You guys know how much it means to me to have kids involved. I grew up doing it, having my kids involved. So, I kind of geek out on having kids involved, and his daughter was a trooper all weekend. I'll let him tell more about it, but man, he's going to load that footage up, and it is straight cool, man, like the other side of the pillow.
I absolutely would love to share that for sure on the YouTube channel. I'm going to probably try to get Joe's help on it, but
we'll make it happen.
It was an incredible moment. Unforgettable memories, man, and I got to thank all of you for it too, because a lot of that trip is a combination of everything that I've learned and absorbed from all of you guys, and me kind of passing that down to my daughter. So thank you all.
Yeah. Congrats, Sophie. We put you out on the podcast, going to make you famous, sweetheart. Promise.
Hey, I tell you what, Sophie is an assassin. So I'll just end it right there,
Cool Hand Luke, and now you know what that is, Luis. Look it up if you don't know. Cool Hand Luke, right?
Yeah.
Guys, y'all know what time it is.
Shout out.
Time for the ElkBros shout out. If you're new to our show, these are just a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
And we're going to head up with those reviews. I only got a couple of them from Apple Podcasts. We had a bunch last week. And there were like 3 more that I couldn't put on here. Because y'all, look, when you put those incredible reviews on there, please give us a name, first name, state, something like that where I can do that. Because, our first one here, shout out to Colorado Grizzly, man. And
where are you from, Colorado?
Yeah, where are you at,
we can speculate, but you never know. You might be from Montana.
And then we got one from Joel from Germantown, Wisconsin, and we appreciate that, Joel, man. And so I'm going to head into the top listening cities, and guys, it's a first. This right here is an ElkBros first. I am, for the first time, going to give the same top listening city 2 weeks in a row. And
Oh, wow.
oh man, and look, we have never done this. And guys, you guys listening, this is why we've never done this is, we always want you guys to hear of all these top listeners from all these different places. So we always go down our list of top listeners, and we're looking for a place new each time because, a lot of y'all, I mean, Dallas, Denver,
Yeah.
Chicago, I mean, these big cities and stuff just hammer it and have just been super. And a lot of you guys have been super. And so we always go down and we try to find who's next on the list that hasn't been given a shout out to. And guys, listen, we're over 6,000 U.S. cities, man. So there's a bunch of y'all out there doing this. So,
No doubt.
but I had to do it this time because whoever these listeners are in this city, you got to love their style, man. Not one, listen to this, y'all, not two, 3 weeks in a row, they have tripled the listens of the very top listening city, including Big D. And
Wow.
whether you want that to be Dallas or Denver, man,
Sure.
these guys are like, we want a shout out, man, because they have just been hammering it there. So, guys, we're going to take a deeper look into what makes this town tick. And and I'm going to tell you, we talked about them last week. We talked about some fun water stuff they had last week, but I kind of went back and I was like, well, I went and looked at where it was at. I saw that it was north there of Seattle. Actually, wait a second, man. If I look at the map right, yeah, it's about north of Seattle. Gorgeous area. They have a glacier lake that they're named after right in the middle of their town. And it has the largest, you get this. No, see, Luis, you ready for this? I want you to explain this one to me, bro. Because I had no clue what this meant. I mean, it said that they had the largest erratic in Washington. Now, I've been told I'm erratic, right? So I was like, got some big dude that's just off the wall or something over there. But
it's like not very consistent.
No. So an erratic, it's also called the Lake Stevens Monster. It is a giant rock that is considered the largest erratic in Washington. And erratic has to do, it's basically a stone of some type that's not of the area that was brought in from a long distance from a glacier. Okay.
Wow.
All right.
That's cool.
And they have the largest one here. It measures 34 feet tall, 78 feet in length, and has a circumference of 210 feet.
Wow. That's big.
So this was no pebble dropped by this glacier, right?
It's
So
like a meteorite.
yeah, pretty cool.
And it dug up the lake.
Yeah.
So it's
When it
it's actually setting up on the side of the lake in the residential area. So it was deposited on land, when everything started to come out of there. So
Wow.
yeah, pretty doggone cool. And there was one other thing I found out that was kind of cool. Before he became a superhero, this Lake Stevens native was better known, and Chav, I bet Chav can tell me this, as Goofy Andy in Parks and Recreation. Anybody remember that show, or you guys see that one? So he was also on Guardians of the Galaxy, the main dude there. Our guy Chris Pratt grew up here, and his dad was a home remodeler, and his mom worked right there at the local Safeway. Chris Pratt. And
Cool.
Lake Stevens, Washington. Yeah, Lake Stevens, man. You guys
Tripled their listeners.
Look, I need some letters from some of y'all in Lake Stevens telling me who in the heck is doing this and what's behind it and how we have so many people hammering our download from Lake Stevens. I just got to
That's
know the
awesome,
story
man.
behind it.
That's very cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's
y'all
way
go
I
reach
must have
out to
driven.
Joe.
I must have driven by Lake Stevens probably twice back in 96 and 97, man. Very
cool.
That
Awesome,
is
man.
cool.
Well, Luis, you're up next. My brother that threw me under the rash bus. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Have fun with this one.
This town is known for its prodigious Revolutionary War history and is the location of strategic King's Ferry between Stony Point and Verplanck Point. This is where General George Washington's army crossed the Hudson on his knackered and weary march to the Battle of Yorktown. John Trumbull's celebrated and renowned full-length oil painting depicts the crossing at Verplancks Point. Other points of interest include Bear Mountain State Park, Peaksville Landing Park, and New Croton Dam. And this is Cortlandt Manor, New York.
Cortland Manor, New York in the house.
I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of you, man.
Because nailed that.
I want you to know I added about 12 different words that weren't in there.
I know.
Made that your female dog.
And I could see you were like, yeah, I'm going to get him. And the worst thing is my daughter just came in through the door and she wanted to say goodnight at the moment I was starting to read. And so I was like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? I need to get this straight. So,
man. Yeah. One of our brothers from Colorado, he said, God dang, Luis threw you under the bus, Joe. You should have given him the toughest one to say last week. I was like, that'd be a good idea this week, man.
Shit, Joe, that happens every week.
Hey, not intentionally.
I told him, bro, we do that every week.
Not intentionally.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Just going to say, that rash was probably karma for all the ones that you've already made me read. Like that. And you and I have stories about karma.
Read.
To be continued.
TBD.
All right, Chavez.
Okay, this is one of our international cities. This small hamlet in southern Alberta, Canada, is located 32 kilometers northeast of downtown Calgary. A local farmer donated a large parcel of land to the Grand Trunk Pacific Railroad with the provision that he could name the town. He named the town after his daughter, but the sign maker misspelled the name, exchanging the letters Y and R. Big shout out to our northern neighbors in Catherine, Alberta, Canada.
So is that Catherine now, or is that, you know what I'm saying? Catherine? Because they reversed the Y and the R?
Yeah, I've seen it both ways and pronounced the same, but...
yeah. And I got to tell you guys, Lake Stevens was our top overall, but if we had gone to new communities, new cities, Cortland Manor, New York would have been the top one. So I want to give them a big over there as well. And that meant that Catherine was second up in that category as well. So
very
cool, y'all.
Our neighbors to the north.
Our neighbors, man. Thank y'all.
Betcha. Next up, located in the eastern side of Oregon's Cascade Range, in the high desert in central Oregon. This is the site of Roberts Field, formerly of World War II era in the Redmond Army Air Force Base, and is currently now a commercial airport that serves 3 counties in Central Oregon. The town was founded in 1904 by pioneers Frank and Josephine Redmond that settled in that area. None other than Redmond, Oregon.
Redmond, Oregon.
In the house.
I'd like to see how many weeks Oregon has been in this list, man.
A lot of ducks.
Love that state, man. I got personal relationship with that state and great history there and incredible people and family there as well. So
yeah, because Chav said the ducks, and I think yours was
a lot of ducks and beavers.
What? Huh?
A lot of ducks and beavers over there.
Yes, sir.
Ducks and
Oregon
beavers,
ducks
yeah.
and Oregon State beavers. That's right.
Yeah, there you go. But
so
where?
Corvallis and
What was the university you went to in Oregon, bud?
I didn't go to university there. I went
it
to
was
high
West
school.
Virginia, right?
Yeah. I went to high school in Oregon City.
All right.
he went to the Mountaineers in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
By God, West Virginia.
The high school was Oregon City High School. That's where I went
Oh, awesome,
cool.
man.
as an exchange student. It was it's a
They
it's a
got the
town.
raw end of that deal, man.
Sure
They were
did.
like, we want our exchange back, man. How
I
do
tell
we
you
do
what, man, incredible people. They changed my life, you know,
That's cool,
in
brother.
a positive way. So,
Awesome.
I bet you changed
so
theirs too.
Yeah.
well,
No doubt.
I probably got more out of it, honestly. So, like Joe said, it's a bad deal for them. So, okay, the next city. This city is known as the Gateway to scenic southern Indiana. It was established in 1818 by a group of settlers from Kentucky, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Virginia. The city, home of the University of Indiana, was named for its haven of blooms, and it's dotted with tulips and dogwoods. A local attraction called the Empire Quarry provided the stone to erect the Empire State Building.
Wow.
Bloomington, Indiana.
Bloomington,
Man,
Indiana. Yeah.
wow, that's crazy to
Bloomington.
think that they got the,
All the
you know,
marble and everything.
the quarry was all, from there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, all the way
Granite.
from, because I know that there's a ton of quarries up there in Mass as well, but they got that, some of that all the way from Bloomington, India. That's way cool, man. Hey,
Yeah, I mean,
guys,
there's a bunch of
all of
those
you
quarries
towns,
down
thank
there,
you.
so.
What's that, Gilbert?
There's a bunch of rock quarries down there. I mean, in Georgia. I mean, you know, the chapel in Utah, the Mormon's Tabernacle, it was built all out of Georgian marble. So
Wow.
they hauled all that marble from Georgia all the way to Salt Lake City.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they did a lot of that back then. Like those guys hauled all that stuff from Bloomington to yeah, heck, New York City. That's pretty bad to the bone.
So tonight's topic, when the blood runs out, and the reason that I brought this topic up tonight is that in the last 3 weeks, I have talked to several people, friends, colleagues, different people that, and it actually happened with myself, with the hunter that I had, that, you know, it's the one thing, and I think all you guys, like Gilbert after your shot, Luis after your shot, how many times after you take a shot do you kind of question yourself just a little bit?
Oh my
I
God.
did.
You know,
Yeah.
I knew my shot was a little high,
that
Me too.
yeah.
but
so
I was
that-
shooting from down up above him. So I knew that was, you know, when we heard him, I mean, when we heard him crash, I knew it was in the right place.
yeah,
It just,
absolutely.
whenever you're shooting long distance, your arrow's going to look high all the time because of the trajectory, you know.
But
Point
how
is,
many,
it's common.
but how many times too do a lot of guys, man? I mean, they feel like they have absolutely nailed the shot, and they do everything. I mean, they're doing their wait time. And let me tell you what, that is sometimes the hardest thing to do, is to sit there and wait before you go and start doing your tracking job. It's incredibly important, because I tell you what,
Very important.
and we're going to bring that back up when we get to reasons or some of the causes here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get out there and then you have a good blood trail, you follow it for about 100 yards, and then nothing, and your doggone heart falls, man. And then, you know, that all of those doubts start coming in, all the questions start coming in. So guys, we know a bunch of you guys out there, there's a bunch of you that have felt this, and it's not that we want to hash over what you have felt. We don't want to hash over what necessarily what we have felt. What we want to do is we want to prepare people for when this does happen, because if you hunt these animals, they are big, they are strong, they are survivors. And
That's an
I
understatement.
yeah, dude, I don't want to say it's going to happen,
Unbelievable athletes.
but there's, you know, if you hunt for a lot of years, either it's going to happen to you or you're going to know somebody that it happens to. And then to know what to do when that does happen can really sometimes mean the difference. And sometimes you know, you got to take some steps back, you got to collect yourself, and it's kind of like, to me, guys, it's kind of like how guys hunt elk just looking for bugles, right? And there's other ways, there's other methods to get those opportunities. Well, we want a blood trail. That's why we preach what? 2 holes, right?
Cool.
Absolutely.
That's why we preach 2 holes. We want as much of an opportunity for a blood trail as possible. But if crap happens, and if it happens that does run out, there are alternate methods, and there's things that you can do, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. I mean, that blood trail is like, it's just what it is. It's kind of like somebody, dropping breadcrumbs, taking you to it, right? But
Finding needles in haystacks, getting down on your hands and knees. I mean,
oh man,
it's hard at times, super hard.
And sometimes, I can remember when Chav and I, before we ever started hunting elk, when we were hunting deer, Chav shot a real nice buck one time, and that doggone buck, man, went to a spot. We found a puddle of blood. We found some mucus mixed in with it, and that was it. No more. You remember how that felt, Chav, that time? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, every time I shoot one, I celebrate on sight a little bit, but with the idea that, well, until I see it, I'm not going to really celebrate a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really tough when you shoot one close to nightfall, because you got to wait a couple of hours, and if it's really cold, I guess you wait all night, depending on where you think you hit it. But until you see the body there, it's you worry a little bit, because you never know what's going to happen. There's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and that only means that you've been through that before.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My first bull, had to let him lay overnight. I mean, that was rough, man. Rough.
Yeah. Yeah, but we knew that was a dead bull, and
For sure, we sure as heck hoped it was going to be.
yeah, and I'll tell you,
And we
I
did the
think
right thing.
absolutely, and we're going to talk about the causes sometimes of why, the reasons a blood trail goes bad, and I will tell you that I think sometimes one of the number one reasons that a blood trail goes bad is because guys get up and jump on an animal too soon.
100%. That is the number one root cause in bad blood trails.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And the Venezuelan boys have hunted with me for a long time, and they'll talk about a rule that I have, and they call it the rule of Beto. And man, I'm telling you, Chad was with me when I killed my biggest bull ever. I watched that bull fall down. How long did we wait before we walked over there, Chad?
Oh, we did a good 45 to an hour,
Exactly. I'm not gonna, if I don't know that animal went down, I'm not. It's 2 hours, man. I mean, most of it's 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours. Now I may go over there and look for my arrow and see
Right.
what kind of hit I'm
To
gonna
get
got,
some
right?
information, right?
Yeah, but even that, I've shot bulls and they've gone down within 20 yards, Joe.
Sure.
And
Right.
if you hit one and make him sick and he goes down within 20 yards and it's thick where you're hunting,
Right.
you go look for your arrow. He's going to get up.
Yeah.
When you get him up, he's going to go.
And that's some intelligence right there. I mean, if you saw that animal, go down or lay down close by or something like that, you just need to set off, man. You just need to stay off of that. If you saw that animal and you could see that last point was at a certain point, several hundred yards away or 100 yards away, you just got to be real smart about that. And there's so much on that you need to, and we talk about this in our academy about how after you take a shot, you're not done. Some guys will see an arrow go in and they start celebrating, but you're not done. You have to watch that animal. You have to see how it reacted. You want to look for evidence of how the arrow is in that animal. You want to see how that animal is posturing, what pace it is taking, the last place that it went. There's so much information that you can get during those few seconds that will tell you a lot of information. Was that arrow back? Did that animal, did the head go down, start walking sick? Was that animal stumbling? There's just like so much there. And then, it's so critical. It's like Luis was talking before the show about the two things. You got to either find blood or find your arrow, right? Because
really critical pieces of the pie.
Because that gives you information, man.
You bet.
The
And
type
if I don't
of
find an arrow, it's either in him or it isn't.
Right.
And so
Joe,
we've got
one of the. Go ahead, Gilbert. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we got to assume we've got to hit bull if we can't find the arrow. So you
Absolutely.
gotta do due diligence and giving the animal time. And look, guys, our bows are extremely fast nowadays, but most of you guys are shooting Luminox, so y'all see where the arrow is going to go. I'm still old school, man. I don't shoot the Luminox 90% of the time. I don't get my arrow back anyway, so that's just another $10 I'm wasting. But at the end of the day, a lot of our guys shoot Luminox, so you're going to see where the arrow's going. You
Right.
know, and it happened to Luis this year, and he knew that he made a marginal shot, or felt he did anyway. So he knew that the extended time needed to be extended, right? He felt like it was forward, and he felt like it was a little high. So it's just about putting that time in too, and understanding that if you didn't watch that animal fall in sight, and he's DRT, he's dead right there, and you better give him an hour and a half before you ever go into his world and get him up. Because I'm going to tell you, these animals with one lung and their liver lacerated can run a mile before they ever
Absolutely.
get down again.
Yep.
You know, Joe, I mean, they are just that strong a competitor. When they are scared and they are running for their lives, they can cover some country that you and I can't traverse.
No, and I have seen an animal frontaled, bleeding like crazy, go down to the bottom of drainage and run up over 400 yards on the other side. Run up over 400 yards. Now, people say that a wounded elk will not run up a hill. I'm sorry, but they will. Now,
You bet.
especially if
Up and down and back up.
yeah, especially if they're hard hit, and if they're scared or if they're boogered. Now, once they're relaxed and they're not feeling good,
They're gonna lay down.
they're going to try to take the route of least resistance, or if they're not boogered in the first place, if you bugle out or you cow call and get that animal to settle down and then, think that, okay, or I'm okay, and then starts feeling sick, then they're going to generally try to walk to an area where they're at. But if you do not think they can go uphill, you're dead wrong with that. It's a big, strong animal.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, okay, after the shot, think you might have made a good shot, and you go find your arrow after you've sat for an hour, hour and a half. You go find your arrow, and then what do you find? Well, I find real dark red blood.
Right.
That tells you we need to extend our wait time another
Absolutely.
couple hours, right? If you find real pink, red, frothy blood all over your arrow,
Start celebrating.
yeah, man, y'all better start doing the victory dance, crack open the flask, have a drink, and sit there another hour and get you some granola and wait on your bull to go get him and put your hands on him. But
I'm still with Chav, though. I'm still going to hold my cool until I see that animal.
there is telling signs in that blood. That dark red blood tells you it's superficial muscle tissue, could be liver,
Right.
and he's going to need some more time, Joe.
Absolutely. And that's where you got to know. You've got to know where your placement was and the placement of that animal. If that animal's broadside and you hit him back, but I mean, we're talking our mid body, but now we're hitting him back another 8 inches back from where we want to. That's an animal that's possibly going to get a part of that liver, depending on how high it was, and it's going to get that punch, man. And that animal is going to need anywhere. I mean, look, I had a hunter this year that shot an animal in the pocket. Now, and I'm just telling you, listen, y'all, you can do everything right, totally right, and things can go south on you. This guy thought he had he was really questioning his own shot after, but he had hit it right in the pocket. And how this arrow ends up hitting a bone and deflecting back so that it only gets one lung and punch, this animal lived for about 36 hours, and
Unbelievable that y'all found him, Joe. I'm just so proud of you. Like I said, this guy is a freaking bulldog, I mean, he was not going to be denied. Joe dogged that bull and kept rolling on him until they found him. I'm so proud of that, Joe.
Yeah, but
just
it was
a testament
bittersweet,
to this.
I mean, it was good we found him because it helped it helped my buddy be at rest with his shot. I mean,
Do
here he
you think
was.
y'all bumped him or when y'all went to go look for him, Joe?
Well,
Y'all think y'all bumped him and got him up?
I don't know, man. I mean, I saw him sick, and I had spotted him, and I backed out because I just wanted him to lay there. I don't know what,
The
you never
coyotes could
know
have
what
got
could
him
have
up.
happened that got him up, but
Coyote or a bear could have got him up.
yeah, he gets up and walks, and he ends up about 700 yards from that location, man.
Freaking quarter of a
Walking. I mean,
mile.
he just walked
Half a
a
mile.
nice, and for an elk to go 700 yards don't take very long.
Oh
I mean,
no.
especially in flat area like that, so.
They cover a lot of ground quick.
Yeah.
Oh.
They
Now,
can
Joe,
cover it.
I get a couple of instances where we had situations like that. I do recall a couple of years back when you shot your bull. We were through the squeaky forest, and it was a perfect situation. We had the wind in our face, the sun in our backs, and sure enough, Manano spotted an elk that was coming towards us. You started calling to it, and it gave you an opportunity to shoot it broad, slightly quartering towards, actually, I think.
Right.
And
Not
after
much,
the
yeah.
shot, you weren't too happy of your shot placement. You knew you hit him. It sounded like a good hit, but you were still kind of doubtful of the shot. And I recall us recovering that arrow right there. Good blood, but we still decided to kind of sit down and wait for a little bit.
Sure.
Little did we know, by the moment we were putting our backpacks down,
He was dead.
there was this bear coming.
Oh, yeah.
So Manano and I get to shoot this bear, and but the moment that the commotion is taking place with the bear, Manano spotted that bull that was bedded already, not feeling very good, very close to us.
Right.
He gets up and runs further away.
Because the bear actually jumps him up. Yeah.
Yeah. So a bear jumps him up. He gets up and runs another, 50 yards or so.
I don't even think it was that, bro. I bet that bull didn't go
Probably even less,
30 yards. Yeah.
So, I mean, point being is it's so easy to jump him, right? And if not, they're not really mortally wounded like this one was.
Right.
They're going to be sick for a little bit, and they can get up and run long ways. I mean, we have my bull from several years ago, and we also have the example of Manano's bull this year. That was something similar like that happened. I mean, when you jump an animal, things can get complicated quick.
Absolutely. And so that's why I'm saying, for you guys that are listening, probably, and I'm saying the number one reason most people end up on a blood trail that goes bad is because they jump an animal. Because what happens is when that animal sets, they're going to do a number of things. If they can reach it, they're going to pull the arrow out if they can. Depending on where that arrow went in, whether it's a pass through, and most likely if that arrow's still in them and they're able to pull it out, it's only just one side. And if it's in an area now where that skin can flap over and they bleed internally, or it's a paunch shot where it goes in and the internals of that will end up blocking that, and you're not going to get a whole lot of blood out of that anyway. And even if it is an area like Luis hit an animal years ago that is bleeding like crazy, these animals will lick it. They will they will rub down in the dirt and they will clot it up. And then they'll start going from there, and you'll have an animal that had perfect blood in the bed and all that area up to there, and then there's nothing because they've basically put almost like a gauze pad on their wound.
I remember tracking this bull,
There's
Joe,
coagulant in their saliva.
and he would get on his knees to try to get the shoulder blades to kind of, close that wound, and every time he would get on his knees, we'll see less and less blood from that point forward.
Yeah.
And man, we tracked that bull for 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean it was, and it went to
1.5 miles.
It went to pin
drops.
pin size, pin drops there, man. And so, but that's what I want to tell you guys, man. It's critical. You get that information. I would rather find an animal stiff than not find it. Right. So I had an instance where a buddy of mine shot one. He felt like he hit it a little back. I knew it was, a good hit. I found dark blood where he hit. I know that that's liver. we wait, instead of going in it before we even start tracking, we waited 6 hours. Now that animal went up on top of the hill, a hill that was probably about 30 yards up, and was only 50 yards from the top of that hill where he died because he felt sick, went laid down, got stiff, and died. Now, had we gone up there a half hour later, 1 hour later, or right away, we'd have jumped that guy for sure.
He'd have run out of the country.
Yeah, and would have had a real difficult time. So,
Joe, if we were to kind of summarize some of these, what we've talked about so far,
right?
Would it be fair to say, hey, look, listen, you take a shot, you really kind of have to keep an eye on where the shot placement was. If you have aids, anything that can aid you, like Beto said, Luminoc, right?
Video.
Right.
Or if you recorded the shot, take your time to take a look at where the shot went, where you hit the animal before you even do anything, right? Then get additional information. If the arrow is in a place where you feel safe about going to get the arrow without spooking an animal that might be bedded close to the animal. If the animal bedded close to you, do not go for the arrow. Just simply sit still, back off. Mm-hmm. And then again, look at your footage, do whatever you need to do, wait long enough, but at least, like Beto's saying, wait 2 hours. But if you feel like the shot was marginal, give yourself at least six hours. Is that correct?
6 to 8, man.
Yeah,
at least 6 hours.
Shot or back,
And I'm telling you, now, if you shoot a shot back, if you paunch shoot an animal, that's a 12-hour wait, man.
Maybe
12 hours. And I mean, and you're liable to find them still sick, So
yeah, I mean, they get a condition called peritonitis, and it's actually it gets in their blood, and it's not pleasant for the animal. They're gonna die, like Joe said. It can take from 12 to 20 hours. Look, I killed my first bull. I shot him at 48 yards. I got part of one lung, and I got all the liver and the good stuff behind it, and I put another arrow in that bull. Broke his right front femur and shot him through the bottom of the brisket. I mean, that bull was sick from the get-go. You can ask Joe. I shot that bull again at 90 yards just because we've been practicing, and I felt like I could hit him. He was broadside standing in the middle of a park, and he was
and we're trying to get another arrow in him. It's not like that was our original shot.
We knew we'd shot him a little back, and he was a little quarter into us when I shot him. So, I mean, the bull actually went into an area that we had to wait, and there was no way that if we go in there and we push him, we'll never find him.
Right.
So Joe was very astute. He said, listen, Gilbert, that bull's sick, really bad sick. He said, let's just go back to camp and wait. That's a dead bull. And I'm so glad I listened. Look, when we got up on that bull the next morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, I shot him probably about 6:45 that evening. And when we got on him at 7:30 the next morning, that bull wasn't even stiff. Yeah. Right. So, I mean,
he'd only died probably a half hour before, if that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So that was 12 hours,
But there's before you get there, Luis, I want everybody to understand, though, sometimes, though, there's mitigating circumstances that don't allow you to wait either. I mean, you have a rainstorm coming in.
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear Chav, remember your bull that coyotes jumped it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
very true.
You talk about the perfect shot. 15-yard double lung. The arrow drops on the other side. The blood trails like somebody's pouring some paint down a trail, but unfortunately, it was about a half hour before dark. So we let him be for a little bit and came back about, I think, 2 hours later, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we find a big round spot of blood, and then nothing at all. And it turned out there was another kill in the area that was gut shot, another elk, probably within 100 yards of it.
Absolutely.
And anyway, it was half eaten up. So after that bull lay down, a bear or a pack of coyotes caught the scent of, jumped him, and he just took off. He had enough adrenaline. He lost a lot of blood, had enough adrenaline to just sprint away and left not a trace of anything. And we had 5 guys on their hands and knees looking for, pin drops, and never saw it. So, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, sometimes there's crap happens. And that's what I want to tell everybody is, you can do everything right, and sometimes things go south. So understand that. Luis, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
No, I think that was an excellent point. I mean, sometimes you do everything you can, but nature just takes over and does whatever it wants to do. But no, what I wanted to say is, like, I think you guys touched on something that was super important. You guys said, some people take the shot and see the arrow hit the animal, and then they start celebrating and think the hunt is over. Mm-hmm. But far from it, right? But I have footage of Manano shooting a hog, and I watched him how right after the shot, he takes a shot. He doesn't even blink, and he turns the bow to his side, and his eyes are laser focused on where that arrow went, where that animal went, and he just followed that animal, and he's really good at keeping his target on sight, even after the shot, and marking the woods of where he last saw it, and hearing, and just like he stays in the shot even after the shot. I think that is so important.
That's the point I was trying to make, and the point I make in the academy, that after you hit an animal, you are not done. Mm-hmm. It's not time to celebrate. There's still so much more information you need to gather, because you've made the shot. Now it's about the recovery. And you need to stay in the game. You need to stay in the game. And not only that, one thing that we haven't talked about yet is firearms. Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. Because firearms are included in this too. And when I talk about sometimes the reasons that a trail goes bad is sometimes with a firearm you can't find the trail, because either the location from the distance, and you're all by yourself, and you're not, like you said, you're not good at marking that mentally, maybe. And so you have a hard time finding where that animal went in once you get, because I got news for you. You look at an area through a scope or through binos. When you get there, it looks totally different.
Oh yeah. Even without the scope or the binos, even if you're bow hunting.
Sure.
I mean, if you're just going 50, 60 yards, it still looks very different. When you get there, it's like, man, was this where I was at?
Oh,
was
absolutely.
this where the animal was at? So another point is, what you do, Joe, right? I mean, you stay here. This is where I shot it.
Right.
I'm going to go there, and you kind of help me, walk me through to where the shot was.
If you ranged an animal, your rangefinder becomes your best friend now.
No
because
doubt.
you can put that person there and you can range that person to be almost the exact same distance, whether it's a rifle or whether it's archery. That helps. If you're solo, it's real difficult. If you're solo, you're going to have to rib in an area where you were from, and you're going to have to look at your rangefinder going down there, and you're going to have to, hopefully your ribbon is by a tree. Okay, something that you can look back and that you can range from where you're at, and you're going to look at where you're going. You're going to mark something, and you're going to walk directly to that thing, man. And you're going to get there, and you can turn around and range back if you're solo. Because I think one of the biggest reasons, again, for a rifle hunter not recovering an animal is because of that distance or their memory, because they're by themselves, or not being able to place where that animal truly was in there. Or I can tell you, I've seen this on muzzleloader, they can get no exit wound, or they can get poor penetration too, man, because I have found bullets in under the skin and neck. I've found them in spines. I mean, that stuff happens.
Look, my first bull I ever called in for a guy muzzleloader hunting, I'm telling you right now, it took 5 50 caliber slugs to kill that bull
within a can. I mean within that much, right?
Within that much of in the show. I mean, he shot him right in the middle of the shoulder all 5 times, and every time he shot that bull 4 times in a row, it knocked him clean off his feet, and he got back up, Joe. And you know how hard it is to load a muzzle loader 5 times, bro? It gets dirty on the first one, and getting that sabot down in there, we were both on the dadgum ramrod, okay, getting it down in there. And I told him, I said, there's no way we're getting a 6th round in this rascal, man. I've got speed loaders. I keep like 5 speed loaders in my pocket, and we went through every one of them, and on the 5th shot, he shot him frontal coming down a hill back towards us. He shot him frontal. End of story. But that bull took 4 in the shoulder, knocked him clean off his feet. And I know it got lungs every time, but they are so tough, Joe.
Right.
I mean, that's a 50 caliber muzzleloader, and we're shooting even 130. I think the furthest shot we made was 134 yards. The first one was at 113, and I dog piled him, and I mean, we're celebrating. Oh, heck no, it ain't near over. I mean, it was crazy, Joe, an unbelievable display of how incredibly tough those animals are.
Once that adrenaline starts flowing, I mean, that's an incredible drug in that animal, man. I mean,
and we weren't shooting cheap stuff. We're shooting Barnes TTSXs. I mean, it's the best bullet money can buy, as far as projectile.
Yeah.
It was something that opened my eyes real quick to, man, there's a better place better spot to shoot these animals.
If I recommend for a rifle hunter, you want to heart shot that booger if possible, that lower third. And the reason I say the lower third is if you are high, you're punching lung. If you're low, you're missing that animal. So, that's just kind of how I am with the gun.
I like that
Joe,
idea.
something else I like to do is when I take a shot, especially if I'm spotting and stalking, right? And I say this because when I go public land, I like to mark the location from where I took the shot.
Yeah,
And that's where I use my phone. I mark the location where I took the shot, and then I mark the location of where the animal was standing.
Sure.
And then, if you have something else that helps once you get to the tracking mode, carry a little reflective tape with you.
Sure.
and then start marking because it's going to be one of the things I like to do is have the person that is with me, if I'm with somebody, to stay on the last blood. And then I keep going. And if you have that reflective tape kind of on every place where you've seen blood, it kind of gives you a line, a path, and it just helps you do a little
and if you're the person
direction.
on the blood, if you'll use your GPS, your base map, and you turn on the tracking
Yes.
mode,
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
give you a line. It'll give you a
That's
line
true.
of how that animal's going. That'll really help you out there. So let's
And
go to
with your,
that.
okay, cool.
Let's go to
Yeah.
the strategies of what to do when the blood's run out. I mean, because that's what we want to do. We want to give people some tools there. And I tell you, I think one of the things that I saw with my hunter, when we had a bull that we knew was in the area, what he just kind of looked at the area and said, "Man, it's a big area." Well, it is big, but elk are not going to go into he's not going to go into the middle of a park or a field
Well, you'd see him anyway.
unless he's going to die, right? What's
Yeah,
that?
you'd see him anyway if he's in the
Yeah,
middle of a
right,
field, you know.
right. So,
You can
I mean,
negate all that.
you gotta think about where elk want to bed when they're sick, when they're not feeling good, is the same thing as when they want to bed. They're looking for that shade. They're looking for that cover. They're looking for that security. They want to be able to see something, especially if it's not a good hit. They want to see if anything is coming on their back trail. So
Big time.
they're going to get in the same type of areas that they bed in with deadfall, or they're going to get inside trees that they're shaded and stuff. So think about that. And when I am tracking an animal that we've lost, and I am going on the same path that animal did, if there's not blood, well, there can be track, there can be broken sticks, there can be turned leaves. Now,
Yes.
if there's a crap load of track in there from a herd or something, that really becomes hard.
Yeah,
But
complicated.
if I can follow some of that track and I can see any kind of sign of blood because of that, or I can know what that track looks like, now I'm in a little bit better situation.
Yeah.
And what I do is I start to follow that animal's line, and you want to feel like that animal. What are you looking to do? What are you walking away from? What line are you walking? You're not
Where is good cover? Where do
Right.
you want to hide? What's
Where's
the
the-
closest place to hide?
Where's the
you know?
trail
Closest water
of
hole.
least
Yeah.
resistance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the path of least resistance there. So,
My bull this year is a perfect example for everything that you're actually talking right now. I think, one of the things, again, after staying after the shot, understanding the shot placement, knowing where you hit, and then also I stayed quiet and heard that bull running down the hill and running out on the pasture, and I knew that bull had run far away. So when we got down there, we were looking for blood, and then we got in the open pasture, and then we started doing exactly what you're saying. We started looking for tracks. We started looking for, okay, which direction was this bull going? Where was the herd moving? And then once we got in the open pasture and you kind of lost track and stuff like that after waiting 6 hours because of access restrictions, what tipped us off? And I guess this leads right next to your next point, the birds.
it does, but let me tell you, the first thing that we were doing was we knew that he was going to go from the open park into the trees, right?
The trees, correct.
So you're looking for the path of
Access,
least resistance, any
to the
trails
trees.
going into that, right?
Right,
So that's the first thing I'm kind of looking at. And yeah, so what Luis is saying is that here's the methods that we do is you've got to know kind of where to look. And you think about, if you haven't boogered this animal, how sick are they? How far are they going to want to go before they bed? And if you stayed off of them, that's really something for you to think about, because I tell you what, man, those animals do not want to keep walking when they're sick. They're wanting to find something so that they can get down. If they get feverish, if they really get sick, they might start heading to some water. They don't do that immediately. That takes a while for that to happen. But and I'll tell you this too, if you've lost blood and looking for an animal and you're going to use some of these methods that we're talking about, don't quit looking for blood, because you know, we have lost blood on an animal and found that blood 6 hours later on a different point that led us to tracking and finding an
Might
animal.
have
So
coagulated and then open
Right.
back up, and then start
absolutely,
spilling out.
man. Yep, absolutely. So some of the methods that you can use if you have lost that blood and you have lost the track and you don't have any idea, well, we start doing some gridding. Now, it used to be old school gridding was something where a person would start to kind of go out and just keep going out further and keep going out further. Well, in terrain, you can do that, and you got to really be good at gridding to do a good job. But what we do today is we use our base map GPS system, we turn on tracking, and then what we're looking for is now we're gridding by going through areas that bull most likely has bedded down. We can exclude certain things in certain open areas. And so we want to we work near to far. So we're working an area near within, we'll say maybe a 200-yard range, and then we're going to expand to a 400-yard, and then maybe to a half mile. So what you're doing is you can see areas that you have covered on that map that you've covered within 10 feet of yourself, you know, and
Or you haven't covered.
or
Which is so easy to not cover some areas, because normally you walk through kind of the less resistance paths, and then, you know, until you actually see it on your GPS and you see where you've been, you don't know exactly where you haven't been. So
and I'll tell you what led me to find that bull was once we had checked to 400 yards and I knew he had to be within a half mile dead. On that last day before we headed in, I was heading to an area that I had not been through, and that's when I caught the whiff of the bull, man, inside there. So I mean, it was 3 days, and man, in 2 days we put on 20 miles looking for that thing. So but so that GPS is your best friend. That tracking tool is your best friend at that. And then there's some other natural friends. And it doesn't mean that the animal is rotten, man. And Luis, your animal is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Buzzards, crows, and magpies will get on an animal within
an hour. I know.
After that
It's
animal
unbelievable.
dies. Yeah.
Unbelievable how quickly they get to that animal. It's just
do it
it
for
blew
a
my
living,
mind.
man.
They
do it for a
say a
living.
buzzard can smell that molecule that comes off of a dead animal a mile up in the air.
Yes.
Crazy.
Imagine
It's
that,
like
man.
it's like a hog. A hog can smell a grub 3 feet deep in the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And look, that's what kind of led us to my bull this year.
Yeah,
It's just that
100%.
those birds. And I remember Joe saying over the radios, "It's like, hey, we got buzzards. Your bull
bull's
is
dead,
dead."
man. Yeah.
And so we kept on looking, and we eventually found it. And those buzzards tipped us off. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You know,
It
they're
tipped
getting
us
that
off to the
breed.
area, but you were already headed in that direction.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Yeah.
Going and looking for the paths of least resistance.
They just really confirmed that we were on the right track there. So those
Definitely.
buzzards, and the way the wind was blowing, we knew that the way that they kept circling on that backside, that animal had to be there. So, and you know, you don't have to depend on buzzards. You can use your nose. Chav, do you remember that one bull that was up on top of the hill that I shot late in the hunt? And we kept circling the top of that one hill because we kept smelling the bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, use your own nostrils, because it's very distinct when you smell it, and you never know about the thermals. You know, if there's a slight wind, it might change it a little bit, but you can walk around in circles, like Joe said, and narrow it down, pinpoint where it's coming from, and you know, you let your nose lead you to it.
And this bull had actually gone and laid down in a bunch of deadfall. Not a whole lot of trees over top. It was like on the top of a hill, you know, a whole bunch of deadfall there. It had laid in basically to hide inside there. And I had nicked part of the paunch on this animal as well. And man, we're walking, And we're walking on that hill, and I can smell that bull, and I can smell punch. And I knew that bull. The winds were crazy, how they were going. The thermals were a little different. And we just kept circling. And finally, I came up, and I saw that animal still alive, hiding inside there, and was able to dispatch it with another arrow.
And just to clarify, Joe, when we're saying use your nose, it could be both you smell elk or
Right.
both you smell something rotten. And
Correct.
the second option is,
Dying.
it's late,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And
Well, and look, that's a that's a really good point you just made, Joe. When you guys are looking for that animal, expect him to be alive. If you've not
Expect it.
found him in a real good amount of time, expect him to be alive and be ready with an arrow knocked up. So you guys, if y'all see him, you can get on him and put another one in him. You know, because
Absolutely.
worst thing you want to do is walk up there and him jump up and stand broadside looking at you, and it takes you forever to get an arrow knocked up, and he walks out of your life forever.
yeah, we had
Carry your bull with you.
Yeah, oh,
absolutely carry your
That's
bow
a good
with you.
point. That's
Yeah.
a very good point, Joe.
Absolutely.
Jeff.
And or your rifle, you
Yeah,
know.
or your rifle.
I had a buddy of mine. We had a bull knocked down. And here's another thing I'm going to tell you guys. Now, this is an animal we knew where it was. This animal went down. I mean, boom, on the spot. If you ever shoot an animal with a rifle and they drop just like in their tracks, you better have another one loaded and be ready because
Reload.
most likely have spined that booger. And we were coming up to this bull, and my buddy, I looked back, and he doesn't even have his rifle with him. I'm like, get your gun. He's like, well, it's dead. I said, get your gun. We come up behind it, and I tell him, okay, you got one inside, go up and poke him right on the back end there. He pokes that booger, and that bull jumps straight up with wheels turning, man. I mean, I'm telling you, it got western really fast.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
So, I mean, he ends up shooting that bull point blank with the rifle right there as that bull gets up to start running away. But, man, there were two guys that I know of. One was gored this year, and another one died from tracking
Yes.
a bull that ended up charging him and getting him in the neck.
I was actually in Oregon.
In Oregon, yes, sir. So, you know, you have to
Be
do
ready.
that, man. You
Be
have to do
ready.
that.
Safety, err on the side of safety and caution, man. When you approach these animals, you need to make sure they're dispatched. And
Absolutely.
be ready if they aren't. Look, I mean, this year when I shot my bull, I knew my shot was a little bit high, but we heard the bull fall down. We heard him gurgling. We gave him a little bit of time. Joe actually went down there and said, well, this is where he was standing, and he turned and looked, and the bull's feet up, 40 yards from him. So it was a lot of jubilation. But at the end of the time, I knocked another arrow, and we walked up on him like he was going to be alive on Joe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we wasn't taking anything for granted.
No.
It was a pretty easy tracking job and pretty easy to get to him. But at the end of the day, these animals are so big and they can hurt you permanent. And you got to respect that they can really take a licking and keep on ticking. They're like the best Timex you've ever seen.
So, guys, how long would you say you could look for an animal?
How long would you say to look for him?
Yeah.
Depending on the time of the day, Joe, I think, if you shoot an animal in the morning, depending on where you hit him and stuff like that, I mean, you look for him all day
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
till dark.
Luis, you looked at for yours for 2 days there,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I want to talk about one other thing, Joe, when you have that opportunity.
what the?
Here in Texas, we have guys that have dogs. And as
Oh,
archer,
yeah. There's a great point, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this up.
here in archery country in South Texas, it's thick. And Joe and Chaff can attest to how
gosh.
thick it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
And when you arrow a deer or a hog, it will test your mettle in going in there in all the Wasatch, Wahia, Mesquite. I mean, it's all got thorns. It'll all stick like
Okay, so you said the word thick, and you gave some names. And to people like me and Chav, those names don't mean crap. But I just want to tell everybody, if you want to walk through razor wire and barbed wire and stakes sticking up out of the ground and people dropping needles all over the place, where you're not able to get your arm through a hole without getting stuck, poked, prodded, and hurt and bleeding. This is what we're talking about in this place, man.
It's super tough to hunt, but it's doable. And here in Texas, where there's a few outfitters out here,
and then you have poisonous snakes.
highly venomous snakes, in various types too. I mean, not just your
The
local
four worst
rattlesnake.
kinds.
Yeah, the four worst kind of pit vipers.
I've been in thick stuff before. This does not fit the term thick. This is ridiculous. This is
Tunnels.
I'm not going in there unless I want to die type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's just tunnels of brush.
It's tough stuff.
brush.
But I've got a friend of mine that I know well owns a business here, and he has some of the best dogs, tracking dogs, in the world. And here in Texas, these big bucks, they garner big dollars. And even in our lease agreement where I hunt, if you wound a trophy animal, you are required to call a dog and come in and look for him if you can't find him.
mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. They want that animal recovered. And a lot of what we hunt are high fence ranches and stuff like that. So he's not leaving the ranch. I can tell you that. He's going to be on that ranch. And I can tell you that I have worked for several outfitters guiding that have Jack Russells or, you know, some type of tracking dog, Walker Hound or something. And they are phenomenal tools at recovering animals. Bill Watson at South Hills Ranch hunted that ranch from 1989 to 2004. Only bow hunting. Only bow hunting. They never, and I mean zero, lost animals with a bow and arrow because of their
incredible
tracking
dogs. Right?
Yes, sir. If you shot him through the back leg, that dog was going to get him. And they put bells on these dogs, okay, the loud bells, and they turn the dog loose, and you hear the bell, ding, 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 ding. Now they have GPSs. Back then, we didn't have those. Ding, 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 ding. And if the dinging quits, the dog's on the dead deer or dead hog or dead axis or whatever we're hunting. It's on him. But if the dog opens up, the deer's alive, right? Now the chase is on because the dog will never give up on the deer. The deer will flat faint before the dog's going to give up on him. That's how unbelievably tenacious these tracking dogs are.
Right.
And it's in the heat down here now. I'm talking, I've seen these dogs go 2-3 hours, you know, and 12 miles on a track, you know, on a deer that's hitting the right leg or, you know, or a nil guy that's hitting the butt. I mean, it's amazing.
So if I had the choice between a pack mule and a tracking dog, and I was heading to the western mountains, I'd be putting my money in a tracking dog. And
100%.
Absolutely. The mule is going to come back with nothing if you can't find the animal.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
I just, to our listeners, there may be local people there that have that available. Like I know Scott Dixon down here at Dixon Dog Recovery. I'm telling you right now, I think Scott charges $100 to show and $250 if he finds. You know, I mean,
and to
that's
any
nothing.
of our listeners out there in the western states that you do have tracking dogs in areas, if you want to send us your name, number, list, address, business, we'll post you on our website because anything that helps people to recover animals is something that we would like to, you know, you can put your fees on there, what your costs are, you know, whatever. But like I said, I think that's a heck of a deal to have sometimes, man.
It definitely can be in your arsenal and help you when there's a marginal shot or whatever. And I'm telling you, a dog is not going to miss.
Well,
It's the
had I had a dog with my buddy for that one animal, we'd have found him before he went bad. And I
definitely.
mean, I found the animal because I followed my nose, but it was bittersweet because the meat was already gone on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about how long do you look, guys, again, we're talking about ethics and we're talking about due diligence. You doing your due diligence to be able to recover that animal, and a lot of times that's going to have to do with how hot it is and the amount of time. And it can be different for an animal that's gut shot. You can continue to hunt that animal, and so that is the thing I tell you is take a lot of pride in the fact that you do everything that you can to be able to recover that animal. That's why I tell you, take a lot of pride in that. Now, there's going to be a time, and if you spot an animal that's got that wound, and this, I have buddies that did that this year, hit an animal, hit it in the brisket, found that animal still working cows later on, man. The animal was fine. At that point, he knows that animal's fine. He's done a good job with that. And then there's always the question as well, from that, do you punch or not punch your tag? And here, this is coming from the ElkBros. Here's what we're going to tell you. That's like somebody asking me, what is the distance that they should only shoot an animal with? And I'm telling you, to thine own self be true. If you are somebody that's hunting to put, and it is important for you to put that meat in your freezer for your family, and you have done your diligence and you've tried to get that, and you still have to put meat in that freezer for your family, you are hunting to do that. So there's no way I can tell you not to continue that. If you're somebody that feels strongly enough that you had your opportunity and you feel like you should punch your tag, then you do that. But all of us need to do that on our own personal basis and not put it on other people, because we do not walk in their shoes and we don't know what they've done. So there's some people that feel like, hey man, when you're off, sometimes you need to get back on the horse. There's a lot of reasons for each side of that, and I've heard all the arguments for that, but I don't want it to be an argument. We are a community. We have to support each other, and you know why, when, and how you should do something. And as long as you're asking yourself those questions and you're being true to that, and you're honoring the hunt and honoring the animal to the best of your ability, you make that judgment and you live with that judgment. It's not for me to decide. So I'm sorry, I just got on my soapbox.
No, man, it's all good,
I
Joe.
like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think, our listeners are going to identify with it. We've said this 1,000 times, that ain't nothing going to go to waste in those woods. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
Right.
The bears and the coyotes and everybody else
Absolutely.
are going to get fed. Now, we're not saying that we're taking joy in understanding that, but
No.
at the end of the day, you can do everything right and some things just don't go your way. We have done our level best here at ElkBros to give you the content that you need to understand the anatomy of this animal and to really dive in and understand how to put these critters down. There is a spot that if you can get it in there, I'm telling you, you're not going to have these episodes. Because I'm going to tell you, like an old man told me that's a heck of a dadgum outfitter and guide. I told him I put it in the pocket, and we were looking for an hour and a half for that deer. And he told me I needed to get that shit out of my head
Keep it
right
leashed.
now. Yeah. You need to get that out of your head right now. You did not hit that animal in the pocket, or we wouldn't be looking for him for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And when the dogs finally found that deer, he was 100% right. I got half of the back of one lung and all the liver, and it took us about 6 hours, and we found that deer. I thought I hit him right in the pocket, but the deer spun. If I got to thinking about it, I know the deer was, rotating, and that's what happened. That or I hit a little bone, and it shifted my arrow one way or the other. So you guys, man, I think the most important thing, Joe, is after the shot, you assess what you have. If you got real good, frothy, pink blood
Right.
and plenty of it, and you got your arrow to inspect, y'all wait your 1 to 2 hours before you go find your animal.
Right.
And you won't ever bump him. if you got real dark red blood and you know the shot was back and suspect, let's go for that 6 to 8 hour set,
Yeah.
right?
And cautiously with that. I mean, you've got to
100%.
hunt that animal at that point.
Hunt him at 6 to 8 hours,
Yeah.
right? And going slow, moving in on him. And if you know the shot was back and punch, you smell your arrow and you got that sweet stench that we've all smelled. It's a 12 to 24 hour deal, man. And those are three little simple rules that if you guys will live your tracking life by, I think it will simplify things for our listeners, brother.
And,
Joe,
and don't,
but quick question.
uh-huh.
So, yeah, this is all the things that you can do to kind of help you recover that animal.
Right.
But look, if you're an experienced hunter, if you're in the path of becoming a hunter, you're gonna walk through more experiences, and at some point you're gonna live through something that
Don't make sense.
you're not going to be able to find that animal.
Sure.
And I got a master's degree on that. You know, well, I'm proud of it, but at the same time, it's taught me so much about, you know, the feelings behind it, the roller coaster
Absolutely.
of emotions.
Absolutely, man.
And being okay with myself and understanding that I'm doing the right things. And Joe, you've watched me track animals forever, being on my knees and
Right.
just, you know, chasing animals. So, you know, you have to make peace with yourself that at some point nature simply doesn't want you to recover that animal, and you just have to learn from that experience and make yourself even better every time.
You can do everything right and crap can go wrong. And you're going to have to understand that as a hunter, you're trying to kill something that's trying to survive. And I got news for you. There are efficient and inefficient predators, just like there are efficient and inefficient hunters.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is efficient hunters do their best to be as close as possible and maximize that opportunity rather than taking marginal stuff and maximizing the chance to lose an animal. That's when you become inefficient. The more distance you put between you and the animal, the less attention you pay to angles, the more you don't practice with your equipment, the more you don't make sure you have the proper equipment. Each of these failure points in there make you more and more inefficient and set you up for this to happen. So, yes, you're right. You have to have that conversation with yourself. You have to understand that, yes, I can lose an animal. You got to tell yourself that. Okay, you got to have that conversation. You got to be real with that. But then you have to do everything you can to prove yourself wrong. Okay,
Right.
And that's what I tell is you know, don't be an inefficient hunter. Be efficient. Understand what it takes to put that animal down and do your best. And if you at the end of the day can say, I did my best, and you can look, I mean, I can be
That's
20
life.
yards on an animal and something go wrong. I mean,
Sure.
I can hit a twig, branch, you can turn right as
Seen
I mean,
it. Hit a tree.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
can
never
be all
seen that
kinds of
happen before. But
I have.
But then again, don't lie to yourself either, too, man.
Yeah.
Don't go and because you don't see blood in the first 10 yards, equate that with a miss. You got to do your diligence to check that trail on that animal and make sure, because sometimes that blood doesn't come out for a bit, right? And
No doubt.
Or tell yourself if that animal went uphill that he's going to be fine, you know, or you know because
that moment you pull that trigger, have full ownership on that shot,
Absolutely.
man, and then start doing your due diligence, and you deserve it. The animal deserves it, and as a hunter, you're going to be much better for it.
and
Very much
understand it's a journey.
I had such good teachers, man, such good coaches. About 3 years ago, I had one of my little angels sitting on my side, and he called out the yardage, and it was getting late. He called out the large, and it was a long shot, and I touched it off, it felt really good. It looked like it was going to be a little high because it was a long shot. But when that arrow hit home, that bull ran out in the middle of a big thicket, and another bull that was with him came out on the other side, and he never came out. Well, Chad was like, well, there were two bulls standing there, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, another one didn't come out. I said, I know it. And then I could hear some, I'm like, oh my God, Chav, I think the bull's down. Well, we didn't even go look for the arrow. I said, I can't tell where it hit. I don't know where it hit. Let's just back out and let's go eat dinner. Let's go get the guys and go back. We didn't even look for my arrow. We just turned around, eased back down the trail, and came back to camp and came and got you guys. And look, that bull was dead as a hammer.
Right.
I mean, he was never going to get up ever again. But I didn't know exactly where the arrow hit, Joe.
Right.
So, and I heard him gurgling, but man, I'm not going to push an animal that's that talented and that gifted of an athlete unless I know he's DRT, right? So Chad and I backed out of there, came and got the crew, and holy smokes, man, walked in there, and the arrow looked like he dipped it in a bucket of red paint, and the bull's about 45, 50 yards from that area, tipped up. But again, man, guys, I've learned so much. Those animals, you can ask Joe, my hunting has been a series of events the first
Absolutely.
3.5 years of me hunting. So
Yeah.
learned so much. My daughter, I've said this 1,000 times, my daughter actually showed me where I need to be shooting these bulls, knock them down quick. She shot a bull that died in 17 seconds. And I'm like, holy smokes, man. I did a whole picture and how to, oh my gosh, why right there? And when she hit him, blood flew out of him immediately. And what we've come to realize is there's just a big globule of big vessels in their arteries that when you hit in that station, it's lights out,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
guys, go back and look at our anatomy podcast. It's the best I've ever seen.
Yep. And
Very best.
guys, this is always a tough conversation to have, but I think, I hope we've given you listeners some tools, and we've given you something to think about, and we hope that you have those conversations, and you need to have them with yourself, and you need to talk about those things ahead of time so that you're just not beating the crap out of yourself when it does happen, and feel lost. You need something so that you feel a little bit empowered and you can do other things, man. You can track animals without having to have blood. I mean, it's kind of like hunting elk without hearing bugles. You just got to use your eyes, your ears, and your nose, right?
I like
They're
that
there.
analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can still be a hunter and find a downed animal, all right? And we want to wish you the best of luck of that. Let's go to, before we get out of here, let's get a couple of these knocked out. I mean, every time I think we're going to have a short little topic, it doesn't go so short, but we're going to go to our ElkBros mailbox.
What's all your storytelling, Joe? Ain't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Hey, Chad, the one from Kevin Orcutt, will you read that one for us, man?
I don't have that up, Joe.
Oh, you don't have it? Okay.
I got it right here, Joe.
You got it, Luis? Go ahead.
Yeah. So Darren White, Vancouver,
No,
Washington.
it's going to be Kevin Orcutt. We did Darren last time.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Hey, so Kevin Orcutt, Union Grove, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Hey guys, I am a big fan from Union Grove, right?
Yeah,
Wyoming,
Grove.
Wisconsin. I'm sorry. Thanks for all the great content. I'll be hunting the 3D season in Colorado this fall. Can't wait. This is my second elk hunting trip and my first do-it-yourself, DIY. I have a question about knives. Do you take multiple knives with you to quarter an elk, or do you use one knife with a sharpener? Will one knife without a sharpener be enough? What is the best tactic?
Yes.
Yes, to all the above.
Man, if you don't mind me jumping into this
I
one,
want to hunt
Joe,
that 3D zone, though. That's what I wanna hunt.
there's two knives that you guys introduced me to. So Beto introduced me to
Havilon.
What's that?
Machete.
What's the
Yeah,
what?
the machete.
Havilon?
Havilon
The
knife.
Havilon,
Uh-huh.
and then Joe, you actually gave me a gift for Christmas last
Outdoor
year,
Edge.
the Outdoor Edge knife.
Right.
So
Yeah.
both knives are great. Basically, what you're talking about here, Kevin, is a knife that you have replaceable blades for. It comes extremely handy in the field. Look, it might take you 2 blades to kind of clean one elk, right?
Or you can use a sharpener with that as well. You
Yeah,
can,
you can.
yeah, a little
Especially the
metal.
Outdoor Edge one, right?
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
out of the two, and I'll be honest, out of the two, I like the
Outdoor
Outdoor
Edge.
Edge a little better
Yeah, 'cause it's
because
heavier.
it's a little bigger. It fits your hand a little better,
Yep.
and also replacing the blades is more user friendly. You just got a simple button that you press and pull it out, and then just put the other blade back in.
And because of the backbone system on the Outdoor Edge, you don't have the
Yes.
problem with the blades breaking like you do in
breaking so
Havilon.
much
Agreed.
breaking so much, yeah, but both are extremely sharp and they will definitely get the job done for you. But if you get the Havilon, you just gotta be careful because, like Joe said, it breaks, the blade easily breaks, and also it's hard. You can get cut replacing the blades because of the system. It just kind of you have to bend it in and push it in.
And not only that, you have to have a system for what to do with those blades after you take them off. You usually take one out of a
Good point.
sheath, put the other one back in the sheath. And I like to keep a small foldable type of pliers. Yeah, a little handyman, but a little light one to be able to take those on and off. And really, Luis is right. With the Outdoor Edge, it's not as difficult, but I don't like my fingers being on blades like that. So I would rather do it with that. And if something gets in it, that way I'm using that. And make sure you take care to put those sharp blades back in those sheaths and wrap them up. I always keep extra small Ziploc bags inside my pack as well as part of my kill kit.
Yep.
And I'll keep some cleaning stuff in with that and some paper towels. And I like to wrap those blades, even though they're in the sheath, in that paper towel when I'm done, putting them in that. And I also like to take my knife, my Outdoor Edge knife, and put it in one of those bags because it keeps that blood still damp, so it's easier to clean when I get back to camp, and it doesn't get all over my pack as well. So
Baby wipes, guys, I'm telling you right now. Keep them in your pack. They come in handy for other things.
Also, if you have a plastic water bottle that's already empty,
Yes.
it's also a good place to store those used blades. But
Blades.
yeah, definitely those replaceable blades, man. I think they do the trick. You get, again, on a big elk, you may get up to 3 blades, but
We did
they're
mine
sharp.
too.
Yeah,
One Havilon blade and one
you can
big
have them in
Outdoor
2,
Edge blade.
but they stay sharp and they're super sharp. Now, be careful because they're surgical sharp.
They really
absolutely.
are.
And also, as far as that, not only careful with yourself, but always know who's around you when you guys are doing that, what hands are around you, because I mean, you can be pulling up and take out somebody's arm. So
Man, no doubt. And it's late at night and you're tired and wore out. You done 3 of these in the last 2 days and you're late, I mean, it's dark and everything else. You're trying to quarter him out to get him
More
out of
than
it.
once I've cut myself with them.
I call it a rattlesnake strike. Man, when I see somebody working a knife, I look at their hand and where they're working, just like I do a rattlesnake. How far can that come out from where they're at and catch me? And I don't want to be in that area because they get tired. All it takes is a little slip like that.
Exactly.
So, hey, Gilbert, why don't you get the next one from Mike Bozarth from Payette, Idaho?
Sounds good. Man, Mike, we appreciate you giving us
Mike's awesome. Wait till you hear. I got some great stories on Mike.
for real. Mike Bozarth, Payette, Idaho. I guess that's how you say it, huh,
Yeah,
Joe?
I
Payette?
guess.
Payette, Idaho. He says, hey guys, love your content, attitudes, and brotherhood. I got a quick question that I'm sure has been asked before, and it's one of those weak spots that I'm trying to work on. It's really easy to get dependent on a rangefinder, and even at obviously close distances. I've not shot before because I've either not had time to range or it seemed wrong when I did. and like ultra steep angles with a compensated rangefinder. Then afterwards, I check and shoot, and it was right. He says, anyway, I was wondering what training, if any, do you guys do to guesstimate yardage on the fly? I know a lot of folks don't rely on them, but I'm one of the many that do. Thanks, and keep it coming, Mike.
Yeah.
I know how he feels. That's
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, I watched our one of our brothers get hung in that dadgum rangefinder 2 times this year, and for me, I'm gonna tell you, Mike, this is kind of Joe doesn't use a rangefinder. Joe is an instinctive shooter, and he's very good at judging distance. I will tell you that a lot of places we hunt in narrow corridors, like the shot I made, it was difficult to judge that distance because you're shooting down through a narrow corridor. So things look a lot closer than they really are. For me, I usually miss under, so my bow shoots a little bit high all the time. So when I grab my rangefinder, I range the furthest area away from me that I'm going to shoot, which is 70 yards. And then I want to know immediately where my 40-yard range is, right? So I'm looking to range 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70. 70 is about my max, what I'm going to shoot. So I want to know where I feel like 30 and in, I can judge that all day long. I don't need help with that. But in some of those corridors, 40, 50, 60, 70 is where I need help at. So 30 and in, I could actually probably use my 20-yard pin where I shoot, and I'm going to be okay, up or down. So for me, it's about knowing where that 40 yards is. So now I'm just looking for those objects that are 40 yards away from me. And when that animal crosses inside of that, I don't need the rangefinder anymore, right? I know that he's inside that 40 yards. Now it's just me guessing.
and that's
Is he 30 or go ahead?
and that's when you have time to you see the bull coming and you got time to range stuff around you and give yourself a mental map,
what if you
before he
don't?
shows up to the party, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, some of the things that have helped me in the past, because look, Mike, I was been on the same boat, and trust me, still every once in a while, I kind of doubt myself on understanding distances. So normally we always shoot and practice at 20 yards, right? Because of the space limitations and so on and so forth. So if you really understand what 20 yards is in any environment, meaning sometimes in the wood may be a little bit, deceiving, but if you get that 20-yard mark, you can double it again and just kind of work your math back, right? 20 and okay, so 20 more is 40, and that's about 40. But something that really helped me a lot was I started doing some 3D shooting, in some of the competitions in 3D, you can't use your rangefinder.
Yeah.
Right.
So it kind of forces you to kind of stand there, look at the target, think of what your 20 would be and doubling that, and then you just kind of figure and give yourself. And the more and more you do that, the kind of easier it becomes. And then, hey, every once in a while, if you're just like working in your garage and your garage doors is open, you look outside and you're like, well, from here to that tree, how much do do I think it is? And just give it a guess and then range it, and then do that, kind of play with that every once in a while, and it helps. That's something that's helped me personally.
Jeff, how have you always guesstimated range?
Well, that's probably one of my weaknesses. Generally, I have a good feel for 30. What I
Right.
think is 30.
Right.
So, I kind of survey an area if I know something's coming in, and if I can't range it with a rangefinder, I try and approximate, which objects or trees are at 30, and that gives me a pretty good idea.
Kind of like how Luis is doing 20 then.
Right. 40 and 45, a little bit tougher, of course. But we do this when we practice. We'll get our half dozen arrows or whatever and just kind of throw them randomly around, and then go to that spot and just turn and shoot the target, real quick shots. So we're trying to build our instincts, that way we're shooting from unknown distances instead of just going 30, 40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
We can go, 33, 41.
I've seen
like
people
that.
take a rolling target or something like that and throw it like that again,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah, we
said.
actually went
And
well fishing one time with our bows, remember?
Yeah.
And that was just instinctive. You kind of just drew back and led the fish, and you didn't know the distance, and that
that's
kind of
cool.
helps.
I would tell you too, Mike. I don't. I'm not taking a shot if I don't. If past 40 yards, if I don't know the distance on the animal, I'm not shooting at him.
Right. And
You owe it to
Very
the
valid.
animal to be ethical about what you're gonna do. You
and
know, and for me, my bow 20 to 30 is gonna be about 4 inches difference, right? 4.5 inches difference. I got that room, 20 to 30. But when you get to 40 and 50, you're 7, 8, 10 inches difference. That's a problem when you're shooting at an elk. So for me, if I'm gonna shoot past 40, I gotta know the number. And this year I knew that the furthest point was 60. And the closest point where that bull could have walked out was 42. He walked out in the middle. I shot him for 45, 50, and it was a little high, but he was 57. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got a little bit of wiggle room, especially downhill. I used my 40-yard pin, and it was right where it needed to be. But I needed to know that distance. And if I'd have never ranged that distance, I wouldn't have known. Or if I'd have been looking at him the whole time, I'd have never been able to draw my bow back and get the shot off. So
and
it's part of what you got to use in your everyday planning too.
And another thing you can do, Mike, is that I've suggested to some guys is that you can get yourself a target that is the general size of a bull from
Yep.
chest to back,
Yep.
and you get at 20 yards and find out how that gaps on your pins, like, which of your pins would go on that belly and back on that to tell you that distance, and at 30 yards and at 40 yards, because then your pins or
Your
area
range.
on your bow or on your sight can actually become a rangefinder without having to use a rangefinder. So just by knowing how that width of that animal's chest to back is, it kind of helps you out with that. That's also
That's
just a
great.
suggestion.
There's something actually out there, Joe, that I've seen people use. It's called the Easy V sight
That's
for
right.
for the bow,
Yep.
and it's a sight that's got a V shape, and then you kind of, depending on the size of the animal, you kind of place it within that Easy V, and it kind of helps your instinctive shooting. Super interesting concept. Kind of been wanting to try, but I just hate to, start all over with a new site. But some people have found that to be a game changer for them. So
Yeah,
it
and
might be something to
Mike might
check.
look at a pendulum site too. A lot of these guys are going to these one pin pendulums or one pin
Well,
dials.
see, Mike is I want to say he's in his early 60s, just a little older than me, and and Mike, I know what kind of guy you are, and what I tell you is this: go down to 3 pins and get out there and start shooting without your rangefinder. Do your shooting where you have your known distances, and like Chav said, then you're going to start throwing arrows, you're going to start stump shooting, you're going to do everything, and you're going to shoot a lot of arrows because you enjoy shooting. If it's not tearing your shoulder up or anything, have fun with it, and become better at. The more you do that, the better you'll be at judging those,
Oh yeah.
and being instinctive, and
Oh yeah.
and you'll feel a lot better. And I wouldn't go over 40 yards, man. If I'm used to using it, I'm using pins, I wouldn't go over 40 yards like Gilbert says. Maybe not even over 30 yards. I mean, but within 30, that, and you're ready just to whack it. You don't have to think about it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
All
Yeah,
right,
look, I
man.
mean, the easiest thing is to have a rangefinder and somebody with you, like the baddest man in the planet, Joe Gilly, or your angel on your shoulder, Leroy Chavez. They're clicking on the button and they rattle it off to you. You draw and lights out Irene, right? So cool deal.
That was a good show tonight, man. I enjoyed it.
Fellas, look, guys, like we've always said, if you like what we're doing, man, please rate, subscribe, and review us. really important for us to get our YouTube channel where we need it to be. You guys go and subscribe to it. There's going to be some cool stuff coming out. I know you guys have heard us talk about it for sure. These are really cool subjects that we're coming up with. They're very touchy because a lot of us have experienced this, and they're very personal to myself, Joe, Manano, Luis. I've been with Chav when we had a little episode too. So, I mean, look, we've all been there and done that. So from guys that, we knock them down religiously, but man, we've all lived through it. So our hearts are out with you. If you guys had that problem with you this year, we've read some of y'all's stories. You guys, take into consideration what we've talked to about tonight. Go back again. I can't say it enough, and look at our podcast on Shot Placement. It's the best dadgum podcast out there in the world, but you got to view it on YouTube because Joe, he just draws it up so good with the anatomy part of it. If you have questions and you want us to answer them, you guys go and send them in to info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com. Amazing show tonight, guys. Grandpa Joe, be good up there in Albuquerque to your grandchildren. Chad, so great to see you tonight. And Luis, always a pleasure, my brother. And like we tell all our listeners, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Absolutely. Peace, y'all.
Peace out.